Welcome back to MMA Al Dente. I'm your host, Doink the Clown, otherwise known as the jerk off who carried on for weeks about Ian Machado Garry defeating Islam Makhachev. Weeks. And now here I've got nothing to lean on. There's no real valid excuse. The scorecards were just wide enough, and there was no eye poke or anything, right? I don't know. Either way, I got that one wrong, along with the old Calais Fernandez pick and a bunch of other shit. But Ian Machado Garry, I did bet on him. It was a play of mine. And instead, we got some guy looking to shake hands and hug Islam Makhachev. Not to mention all week he was carrying on about being a vegan and women should rule the earth. And let's all go suck dick or whatever. Every time he opens up his mouth, it haunts him, I hope. And every time I open up my mouth, it haunts me because I don't know what I'm talking about. But let's get into it. UFC 330. Okay, in the main event, Islam Makhachev defeated Ian Machado Garry by 5-round decision. You're like, yeah, I know that. Why are you fucking reading the results? My thoughts on this, I thought Islam definitely won. I had him winning 4-1, but I knew there was a case to be made for round 4. I thought Ian Garry was performing well despite being controlled. But overall, I scored it for Islam. That round, I think control is not nothing. A lot of people, I think, overcompensate. But look, even though it was easy on paper, 4-1, there was nothing about this fight that was easy. And I do very much believe Ian Machado Garry could have won this fight last night, and he could certainly win it in the future. Not that he's going to get a chance to prove so. But he was very much in this. I thought he'd have advantages over Islam. I thought the commentary was all over his lack of movement. Ian Garry's a very agile fighter, and he's long and tall and has some great striking, but his feet were planted. He wasn't looking to move around. I didn't expect quite that from him, but I still thought he made great use of his advantages and was in general winning the fight at range. I'm going to get to round 2. But Islam, I do think, won this with control, and I have to attribute it to his championship medal, or whatever you want to call it, his heart and grit, making shit happen in round 5 when I thought he was in worse shape. Visibly, he was in worse shape, but even just guessing how they're feeling, I think Islam was more beaten up there. And not only did he take down Ian Garry, but he forced him to move, secured his body triangle, and that secured the round. But in the end, he ended up getting some arm triangle attempts and whatever else he did. But the point of it is, that was a really tough spot for him. He didn't need the round in the end because 2 judges had already given him 3 rounds, but he fought like he did, and he fought to make that happen. So that was some really good effort from him. But look, Islam Makhachev, my estimation of him as a welterweight, it's not as high as it was before he made the move. I do think he's going to run into trouble. I think he's already run into trouble. But even though like Michael Morales doesn't hit, or he hits twice as hard as Garry, but he doesn't strike as well and move as well, he is still a problem in a lot of ways that Ian Garry is not. And of course, Carlos Prates. He might be a little easier to take down, but he hits harder than fucking Ngannou. So I think Islam Makhachev is going to have a tough time at welterweight. That's just my read on things. And I thought so before this fight. I thought Ian Garry would be a lot tougher to neutralize than Jack Della Maddalena. And he was. He was taken down. I thought his jiu-jitsu was there for him. And my estimation of his ground game is there and his get-up skills. But he was still obviously at least a step behind on the ground, and he wasn't able to defend the takedowns well enough. A lot of that entailed movement, and Ian Machado Garry was not moving. But he still made this a close fight. He still beat up Islam Makhachev in the little in-between moments, and I thought it was a good showing for him. Islam had the highlight of the night when he knocked him down in round two, put together a big combination and clipped him with a head kick. I think Ian Machado Garry underestimated the striking of Islam Makhachev. He was a little too comfortable with what he'd seen up until that point, and he let his guard down and got clipped. And not only did that secure the round, but it also secured the takedown and potentially some bigger threats from Islam under different circumstances. But yeah, on the ground, Islam Makhachev was not able to advance on Ian Machado Garry, not thoroughly anyway. He did advance, but Ian Machado Garry would come out the backside, get his hips up, get a hip out, and he just really brought it back to neutralizing him in the clinch, where that was the ceiling for Islam Makhachev up until round five. But altogether, I thought this was a very competitive fight. I thought Ian Machado Garry probably didn't perform up to his limits. I thought he definitely left himself vulnerable for takedowns, but he still gave Islam a hell of a fight. My main criticism with Ian Machado Garry is Dana White's main criticism with him. What the fuck are you doing? Stop hugging and kissing. I don't want to pile on the guy who's the joke of the MMA internet, and just because I think this about every fucking fighter that does this every week. But since I've had a few pennies invested in this fight, I will say with a little more passion, what the fuck are you doing? Stop hugging and kissing ass. When I was a kid, there was nothing you could say to hurt my feelings more than call me an asswipe. And I'll tell you, that's the worst thing you can call a guy, honestly, aside from cuck. I didn't know that word until a few years ago. It's kind of worn out its welcome already, but and I know it's been around forever, cuckold, but that is a fucking a harsh term to live with. But certainly the one thing you don't want to do from that is pivot and be an asswipe. I don't know if that's his answer or whatever, but kissing Islam's ass during the press conference with Islam telling him to shut up, and I know that was lost in translation, but just Ian Machado Garry, I was like, I want you to fight on Saturday night. And then Saturday night, anytime there's anything, oh, your glove, the string is loose on your glove or whatever. Oh, what, did I hit you in the balls? Are you sure? Okay, let's shake hands. Okay, stop overdoing it. You like that. And I know you want to be polite. You don't want to be a cheater and looked at a certain way. It makes you look like you give a fuck about your image more than you do the fight. Stop worrying about that shit. Just go to war. You don't have to be fucking Diego Sanchez getting in someone's face. You want to fucking go and just fucking everything's intense. Vanderlei Silva, where you can't even shake his hand. You can be a gentleman and shake hands and touch gloves at the beginning of the fight, which whatever, you don't even have to do that. But as long as you're not hitting somebody in the fucking nuts, don't worry about overstepping. And I'm sorry. Are you okay? You're sure? The ref's sitting there like, yeah, he's sure. Fucking hit him. And for me, when people come out, fighters come out, especially in the last round, but really at any moment, not even especially at the last round, at any moment, not even in the beginning of the round, even in the middle of a round, when they hug, it just makes me fucking sick. Like, it's one of those moments, and I love sportsmanship, especially in MMA. I'm still not over the irony. I'm like a first-time watcher. They punch each other in the face, and then they hug, and it's all respect. Isn't it amazing? Yeah, like I'm still not over that. It's great. I get it. But when you fucking hug, it's one of those things with me. It's visceral. I feel it in my fucking bones. It hurts. It like makes me cringe. Like, I actually vocalize it. I say it out loud. All right, fucking okay, kill him. That's a line from Dumb and Dumber. But okay, hit him. Just stop fucking hugging. It makes me cringe. But the fighters, I know they're in the middle of war, and it's like, yeah, we know each other. Like, I don't even know my wife. That's what this MMA is, man. Yeah, okay, do that after the fight. Go bond and have a beer and be bros. Now's the time for war. And in the end, only afterwards, in retrospect, after it goes to a decision and the scorecards are close, you can say, you fucking idiot. You should have put your foot on the gas, bit down on your fucking mouthpiece, and tried to kill the guy at every turn. And again, I'd be the first one to criticize someone if he kicked him in the balls and then fucking went after him or whatever. Shout out to Frank Trigg. But you don't have to go out of your way to be honorable. Just don't be dishonorable. You can be non-honorable in the middle of a cage fight. But yeah, that's my criticism with Ian Garry. An asswipe is somebody that is happy to be used as a sheet of toilet paper. Charmin Ultra. Here you go, you fucking asswipe. And they're just happy to be seen with you. Even if the picture being taken is him wiping your fucking ass. And that's what it's like with Ian Garry. Just come back a different fighter. Not that I'm going to be betting on you, but come back a different fighter and fight harder for my $17. All right. It's the end of the rant. But shout out to Islam Makhachev because he needed to bite down on his mouthpiece and make shit happen and really fight for his victory. At least he thought he did in round 5. Again, it turns out he didn't. But he made shit happen and tied Ian Garry up and neutralized him. So yeah, I do think Islam has trouble in his future at welterweight. Certainly think he had trouble last night, but he's still the king of the mountain, and it took a lot to get that done. All right. Next up, we had Mackenzie Dern defeating Jillian Robertson by decision. Jillian won round 5. Okay, she did that in the end. Credit to her. I was rooting for Jillian Robertson here. Not that I was invested in her at all, but she was just 2.5 steps behind athletically. It's been a problem that's plagued her in plenty of her fights. The last girl to beat her was Tabitha Ricci, and she was just faster, sharper, and with her judo base, wasn't going to give Jillian much. And Jillian was not able to fight her fight. Here, it was worse than that everywhere. Again, aside from round 5. Mackenzie Dern did have her beaten on the ground. It turns out she was a nightmare for Jillian Robertson on the ground. And by the way, her thighs are twice as big. Just saying. I don't know what that's got to do with anything. But certainly she looked dominant on the ground. And on the feet, she looked dominant as well. She looked twice as dominant on the feet. Jillian Robertson was a fish out of water. Her strikes were twice as slow. Her movement was twice as slow. Her combinations were shit. And I thought she could have just done anything to make more of a battle here. I thought she had to make this a gritty, grimy fight. And she was completely shut down here. In round 5, Mackenzie conceded bottom position, but she knew she had her beaten jiu-jitsu-wise, where Jillian, who's I guess the second best advancer and mounter, the second best passer in the division, was not able to even attempt to pass a leg. And Mackenzie Dern stopped going for subs and things. I think she kind of coasted from the guard, but it was a very comfortable victory for Mackenzie Dern. And even the last round not going her way was all just comfort. She was in cruise control. She almost finished it herself. It's not like she didn't put her foot on the gas, but Jillian Robertson's really tough to get out of there. She's only been finished a few times. She's only been submitted once. And Mackenzie definitely could have done it and came close, but in the end, she just dominated her. It was a close enough fight on paper, where I wish I bet more on Mackenzie Dern, because after the fight, you could say that was a 10-1 favorite. They fight another 9 times, she's going to win them all, or maybe lose one. All right, I can't do math. But Mackenzie Dern was way better than Jillian Robertson, even if it's a stylistical thing. She's better. She's got her number. And unless Jillian Robertson develops some Amanda Lemos type of power, it's not going to be any different. And of course, Amanda Lemos had a very difficult time, really, with both girls, but Jillian especially. And Jillian just beat her a few months ago after she beat Mackenzie just a few years ago. So this was an interesting matchup on paper. It's not like I wasn't hopeful for Jillian getting on top of Mackenzie, and she did again. But I was really questioning who's going to have better cardio, who's going to have better MMA cardio, and all kinds of shit. But it turns out Mackenzie is just the better fighter, and like we might have guessed, the way better grappler, way better grappler. So great win for Mackenzie Dern. I'm not sure they're all going to be this easy, but this one was in the realm of being easy, and she made it so. She looked phenomenal. And I don't want to just talk about stylistical advantages and whatever. Mackenzie did look phenomenal. Her striking never looked better. Her takedowns looked phenomenal. And I can't say her grappling never looked better because she didn't get a finish. But she dominated Jillian in a way Jillian hasn't been dominated. She's been taken down. She's been subbed. But she's never been mounted and passed and threatened and worked over like that. So it was a great reminder of the jiu-jitsu of Mackenzie Dern. And now I want to talk about Dean Thomas. I'm a big fan of Dean Thomas. I love listening to his new show, his old show, whatever. Anytime I can see him, I like listening to Dean and following him as an MMA personality. And by old show, I meant UFC Unfiltered, which is not his show. But anytime I can listen to Dean, I do. And I have to say, what the fuck, Dean? Dean came out in the post-fight interview or the post-fight press conference TV thing, whatever, and said that would be the post-fight show. And he said that he was quitting coaching. He did seem dejected, and I get it. I was right there with him between every fucking round going, man, this sucks. But that was not the place to announce anything regarding yourself. Jillian Robertson just climbed Mount Everest, and she got knocked down at the top. It's fucking devastating, but it's still her night. And I know Dean probably had this in the back of his head, but he should have bit his tongue when it came to making the announcement. Dean Thomas, he was her mentor and coach, and I'm sure they're still going to be tight, but I think this was a shitty look, and that sucks because I'm rooting for Dean, even more than I'm rooting for Jillian Robertson. Still a big fan of Dean Thomas, but yeah, he definitely dropped the ball last night. But again, it was a shitty night for Jillian Robertson. Really tough night, and that means it was a very, very tough night for Dean Thomas as well. So it sucks. Then Jalen Turner knocked out Cowboy Fernandez, and I think I'm back to underrating Cowboy Fernandez. Remember I said he was underrated? Oh, he's back. But Jalen Turner, I guess I needed a reminder of how fucking dangerous this guy is. He's pure danger. Now it's 16 finishes and 16 victories. You could argue he won a decision as well, but he's definitely a killer. Even if he won gritty decisions in the UFC, he's monstrous, and he's monstrous everywhere. And here, it just took one mistake from Cowboy Fernandez going for a spinning back fist like Jalen Turner did against Vicente Luque. And Jalen Turner clipped him and never let him up. Just pounced on him and kept touching his chin until he went out. It was sudden violence, a really abrupt victory from Jalen Turner out of nowhere. And again, a great reminder that he's a fucking killer. It's no surprise he got the fastest finish on this card. And he is, again, a guy that's never won a decision, even if he's come close. It's almost destiny, where he's just a pure finisher. Cowboy Fernandez, his profile has changed now. I'm not going to talk about his cardio or submission skills or takedown, whatever. He got knocked out here. And this does change his profile. I'm not ready to write him off yet. I think he's still an above average, durable guy. But again, this changes things moving forward. And certainly the profile for Mansour Abdul-Malik has changed now. Now he's got 2 consecutive losses. And Dustin Stoltzfus really did tame him. Dustin Stoltzfus, I thought, was going to have a hard time, even though I know he's a resourceful fighter, like I said. I thought he was going to have a hard time handling Mansour Abdul-Malik, but he just out-MMA'd him. He out-MMA'd him, took what Malik had. It was pretty close, back and forth, and Dustin Stoltzfus really turned things around where, well, he cracked him a few times. He cracked him and actually had him staggered a few times. The first time was probably the turning point of the fight, and then he was much more in it. But taking him down and emphatically taking him down, slamming him, was a great look And Mansour Abdul-Malik, with all of his physical advantages, he was really drowning against Dustin Stoltzfus. Wasn't able to go through him, and all of Dustin's experience and skills overwhelmed him. So that was a great performance from Dustin Stoltzfus. Really, one of the very best of his career. And I'm sure if you look at his odds, I'm sure he's come through as an underdog, but I doubt it was bigger than this. He is a solid fighter, Dustin Stoltzfus. And yeah, for Mansour Abdul-Malik, he's got a few different kinds of losses now, but I'd say he's definitely hittable and hurtable. And of course, now, yes, submittable. But overall, there's more doubt in Mansour Abdul-Malik, and unfortunately, he's in shark-infested waters. He's in the UFC, and he might have to go back and fight Cody Brundage again. I don't know. Esteban Ribovics overwhelmed Edson Barboza. Barboza retired. Edson Barboza gave a career and a half to the UFC alone, let alone the sport of MMA, let alone all the kickboxing and other horse shit he did. He's a bona fide fighter, grizzled veteran. He's obviously been beaten up throughout the years. And here he was drowning against Esteban Ribovics. Ribovics was walking him down very effectively, bloodied him up early, and it was slow and steady, but it happened. And it happened 90 seconds into round two. It was kind of like Darren Elkins last week. The way you should go out on paper. In pro wrestling, that's what happens. We'll have the younger guy beat you in the middle of the ring. And here, I guess, yeah, they followed the script, but it still sucks seeing it and knowing the upside, pulling the upset in a moment like that, like Robbie Lawler and whoever else, Cub Swanson. It would have been nice to see Edson retire on a victory, but here he was up against a really durable fucking killer, a guy that I think was always going to make it tough for him, Esteban Ribovics. And for Ribovics, I learned nothing new about him. He's fucking awesome. And here, I don't mind seeing him step over Edson Barboza. Chidi Njokuani beat Joel Alvarez. This was a fight where Joel Alvarez had a ton of upside, but no way to get to that upside. You need wrestling. If I was him, I would just be training wrestling and guard pulling and whatever else, leg lacing, whatever you have to do to get into a grappling match. You have to turn your fight into a grappling match. And he wasn't able to do it. Honestly, I don't know how willing he was to do it in the first place. And I know he thought he won because I saw him celebrating afterward. And that was cool. But he fought Chidi's fight here. Fighting a pure striker in a pure striking battle. And he was less sharp and versatile as a striker. I thought he was still more durable, even though he's been knocked around. And I thought he was dangerous enough to win that fight anyway, but he wasn't. And Chidi Njokuani just did what he does. He wasn't able to go through him in a minute, so he slowly but surely outpointed him, and he won a striking battle. Joel Alvarez, he's got a whole world of upside, but he is not a perfect fighter, far from it. And I don't know if he's going to be able to make the proper adjustments, but again, he's still stuck in shark-infested waters himself, and the next fight probably isn't going to be much easier. Charles Johnson beat Eduardo Chapelin. I thought this was incredible. Charles Johnson was having a tough time with Chapelin. Chapelin knocked him down badly in round two. And also, I thought was just kind of getting the better of him on the feet. Charles Johnson looked uncomfortable, especially early on. And then, of course, he got badly hurt. But the way he came alive after getting hurt, well, he started landing some straight shots, some jabs firing off at Chapelin and a few straight punches. And he turned the tide, stabbed him to the body, and it seemed obvious to me he was the better man in round three. Of course, I assumed that anyway, but at the end of round two, as bad as it got for him, Charles Johnson had already come alive. And in round three, Charles Johnson is the man, unless he's fighting Almabayev. But speaking of which, I couldn't think of a better way to bounce back from that Almabayev fight. Getting submitted in round three, but especially by a Sulev stretch, that's definitely a funky, rare submission. And he found one that's even funkier and more rare, hitting the second Scottish twister in the UFC. The first one I saw again was Jake Hadley in the PFL. But it's a nifty sub. And Charles Johnson, I do think he let the guy, I do think he let Eduardo Henrique turn into it, and he let his guard loose a little bit, his grip loose with his legs. But he's got those long legs where he's able to lock that up, I think, easier than most. He's got a nice long body, and Charles Johnson trapped him and got the submission, which was great. And I know I made that post or whatever, but let me say, talk about a prop bet coming through. Charles Johnson by submission in round three. I blow money on props all the time, and I didn't win all of it back, certainly, with the Charles Johnson win here, but it was a victory for me, and especially with the way things turned out with Coway and Ian Machado Garry down the stretch. I think this really saved me here. So Charles Johnson, not just for me, but for himself, coming through in a big fucking way. I mean, he had a lot of shitty moments in this fight, but he survived, persevered, and outlasted Eduardo Henrique, being the guy that I was counting on him to be, even though there was doubt creeping in there. And Charles Johnson got the highlight of his UFC, well, I can't say that, another highlight for his UFC career. The Kavanaugh and certainly the Joshua Van knockouts are beautiful. Rounds 2 and 3. And the Kavanaugh finish easily could have been round 3. It was close enough. And for Chapolin, I think he's an awesome fighter. I do think he's vulnerable on the ground. He's been tapped by Joseph Morales last year, as well as Clayton Rodriguez. And Davi Bittencourt beat him by decision, with grappling being the difference. So there's definitely something there. It's no coincidence Charles got him by sub here, even if Charles is underrated on the ground. But still, he fought the best round 3 fighter on a few days' notice. So getting finished in round 3 by anything, or even just getting outlasted and losing a decision, there's no shame there for Eduardo Chapolin. He still fared very well against an above-average fighter in Charles Johnson, the fucking Iron Man of the flyweight division. Then after that, we had Dante Johnson knocking out Eric McConaughey. Eric McConaughey, I gave him a lot of upside. I had him winning this fight. I bet on it anyway. I thought Eric McConaughey could win a decision or knock out Dante Johnson. But I knew Dante Johnson could knock out Eric McConaughey. And it was just power versus a chin. There were a few nice exchanges and little moments in the 90 seconds that this fight had here, but in the end, it was just a 1-2, a southpaw 1-2 with a big overhand left, cracking the chin of McConaughey, and that was it. He was out like a light. So this was simply his chin failing him. It's been something that's failed him a bunch in the past, and I'm sure now things will only get worse here, as he's got a long layoff and a recovery, and he's about to turn 30, whatever the fuck. So it sucks. But Dante Johnson, he is a force to be reckoned with, and he keeps dropping in weight. So he's got physicality on his side increasingly. But yeah, here at middleweight, he's definitely got above average middleweight power, and that was a great win for him. And Tresean Gore beat Vicente Luque. I thought this was a pretty good fight. I thought Luque definitely had his moments. I was already counting my winnings when he locked up the Darce choke in round 2. Tresean Gore defended that very well and then started threatening Luque, got on top of him and put him in an arm triangle and whatever else. And on the feet, I thought Tresean Gore handled himself very well. I was worried about his chin standing up to the danger of Vicente Luque once he was in hook range, but he was fine in hook range in the pocket, and he was really sharper than Luque throughout. Overall, I thought he was sharper MMA wise everywhere throughout. This was a good, well rounded, gritty performance from Tresean Gore, and it may not have been as tough as his Bakoya victory a few months ago, but on paper, it's a much better win. He beat Vicente Luque, a guy that's still got whatever, under 10 fights. It's probably over 10 right now, right? All right, it's over 10. He's got 11 fights, but still, great win. And for Luque, I'm glad he didn't get finished, and I'm certainly glad he didn't get knocked out. But this was him running into that next level at middleweight. I thought Luque would win with experience and with his skills because he's dangerous everywhere. But when he locked up one of his signature subs at Darce and he had a few minutes to play around with it, he wasn't able to secure it. And I think a big difference was the middleweight physicality of Tresean Gore. Lucas Fernando beat Rafael Tobias. Let me just say Tobias. Tobias Fumke. Lucas Fernando beat him up. Looked great throughout this fight. Rafael Tobias, I don't know where he's going to go, how much longer he's going to be hanging around the UFC. But Lucas Fernando, even though he's already suffered some UFC level losses, he's an excellent fighter and he's clearly fun and dangerous. And he worked him over and got him out of there with a big knee to the body and then some elbows. It was a thorough win for Lucas Fernando. The guy looked phenomenal. And yeah, for Tobias, I don't think we're going to see him again. I don't know exactly how contracts work, but he hasn't looked great here. This was a tough fight, and he had, I thought, maybe an easier matchup against Dr. Nurgajai and didn't have more than a moment or two there. So he's just, I think, not UFC level, and I don't know. We'll see. And then Neil Magny cost me my money on Ramiz Brahimaj. And I always bet on the Neil Magny props, at least heavily. But here I didn't do that because the odds were so tight. Neil, it's easier. I like to play on his strengths and his traits. And these days he's more often a 3-1 underdog. But here he was still a narrow underdog. And he came through in a big way like Neil Magny does, getting dominated, getting his ass kicked, getting put in a few different chokes, surviving, and then turning the tables in round 2. He got on top of Ramiz Brahimaj and then actually got reversed, but he outlasted him, bowled him over, got on top of him, beat him up, and then put him away with some good left hands, I believe, against the cage. Neil Magny is never going to be the guy that can turn the fight around with like one real shot, but he's still a big, solid welterweight, and he's still got skills everywhere and traits up the fucking wazoo. So great win for Neil Magny. I didn't bet on him, or not much anyway. I didn't pick him to win, certainly, even though the odds were toss-up. But he is still my favorite welterweight, and I'm really fucking glad he won. So that was awesome to see. And for Ramiz Brahimaj, you're not going to hear me harp on his chin so much here, even though it could have just been, one shot really turning things around there. But I'm going to attribute this loss more to cardio. He got Neil Magny. I think he had grappling advantages and strength advantages and all the rest early on, and he's the young kid. But he wasn't able to put Neil Magny away and probably didn't count on that. I said before the fight, he's totally capable of winning a decision, Ramiz Brahimaj, because I've seen him scratch and claw and have close enough fights with the Sorianos of the world. But he is a guy that does not win decisions. And when he wins, typically it's in round 1. A few of them are in round 2. But he's a round 1 fighter. And here, after a good round 1, he fell apart against Neil Magny. Maybe a grinder, another type of grinder, or Court McGee or whatever, he'd go to a decision, unless his ear's hanging off. That was Max Griffin. But Neil Magny is good at turning the tide and overwhelming you, and that's what he did here. So great win for Neil Magny. And Jeremiah Wells, man, this had to be the first fight of the night. This was fucking awesome. I mean, so was the Charles Johnson win and the Neil Magny win. But Jeremiah Wells was a gigantic underdog. Neil Magny, well, it was a toss up. But Wells had no business winning this fight on paper. And certainly in the octagon, it looked like he had no business winning the fight. He was a step and a half behind the whole fight. But in round 3, with his back against the wall and fighting in front of his home fucking crowd, he cinched up a ninja choke right off a takedown. I mean, that was really quick. I've seen some quick ones, from the clinch or whatever, but this was takedown defense. And he locked up a ninja choke where there was no room to move instantly. And he just said, I am pinching this thing and never letting go. And again, with his back against the wall, with 3.5 minutes in a fight in which he was being dominated, he gets the big win, the comeback technical submission ninja choke. Shout out to Oralby for not tapping. But Wells put him to sleep. It was fucking epic. The place was still going crazy for him, but that would have been awesome with a little more spotlight on it. But great win for Jeremiah Wells. That's happened to him before against Carlston Harris, and he righted the ship, made that good, just like Charles Johnson with his round 3 sub after his round 3 loss to Almabayev. So there were some great stories here, some great endings to some stories, and some shitty endings, like with Edson Barboza. Rest in peace. I say that as a fighter. Rest in peace. And that is it for MMA Al Dente. Like, share, subscribe, all that horse shit. And be sure to check out my next video where I break down Fernandez versus Rodriguez.